All right, guys, sorry about that. We are back for the Galfond challenge, and it looks like we've gotten started up already. I'm Jamie Kerstetter, and I'm here to learn PLO from Richard Gayler today. How's it going?
What's going on, guys? Good to be back. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm about as sleepy as you are over here in Vegas, but otherwise doing pretty good. How about you?
Well, I have my Starbucks, so I am good to go.
Nice. It looks like we are already in a sort of big pot on the table to the right.
Yeah, it looks like bet call, either that or check call, and then check on turn. Imposition is going to do way better on this texture, but when they check back on the turn, it's leaning them more towards two pairs or some nine high straights that have no side cards to redraw. So Phil shouldn't have too many bets here. If he has, Jack 10 or something like that, he'll check raise. And Freak over here now is in the driver's seat, getting to throw in a whole bunch of his hands realizing equity on the turn into river bluff to mix those with his nine high straights. Phil, wow. I think I'm actually casting from the stream. Let me switch back over so I'm not delayed. Yeah,
But yeah,
Phil,
now
you go ahead,
sorry,
please.
I'm pulling up the chat so that I can talk to these animals.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you see Freak going small on that river. Really just shows he recognizes the situation. I think, is this Jamie? Are you still here?
Yep.
Okay,
You hear
so
me?
it's over on Nick's end then that we have the. Okay, well, if our internet is working, that's what matters. But yeah, so Freak goes small on this river to try and fit some of his, for instance, like Ace Jack 3-6. He had Ace Jack 4-7. There you go, into his nine high straight range, and Phil with a gangster call. Do you want a horn? I won't get it for this one, but if you want a horn, we can have a
No,
horn. No horn.
I'm all set. If you want it, if it's gonna be an every stream thing, and I'm bucking the trend, you go for it. But
Well,
I
I
think
think
it's a little early in the morning for the 4-bet horn.
understood. I think Stapes is on hiatus, so maybe we can put the horn on hiatus.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anyway, this board is phenomenal for Phil. Like, Freak's going to very rarely have two-part plus, and Phil's going to be pushing equity almost all the time when he goes all in here. Pretty hard for Freak to have outflopped him. He's going to have a bunch of dominating ace with spades to dominate Freak's like pair plus spades, that kind of thing. You love to see it. This is one of the best flops Phil can get. Also, wow, look at that sizing. We've been seeing Phil 4-bet bluff.
Ace
Not
is just
today.
the spade blocker there. Let's see. Oh wow, is that light on Freak's side?
No, it's super mandatory.
Okay.
I mean, if you just had Jack X with the 56, and the ace counts against you a little bit, but even without the backdoor flush draw, you're
Okay.
just so happy. You're so happy to go with it. You've just got so much equity in that bad boy. So, what made you leave law?
It's a super boring job. It's really funny because now I'm getting into studying poker like more seriously. And I'm like, oh, this is also a boring job.
Oh yeah, I mean,
But
poker's.
like there's some excitement to it at least though. Like law was just the same thing every single day, and it looked like it was gonna be that way for 30 years. So
Mhm.
if I wanted to make a lot of money, I would have stayed in that. But I just couldn't picture enjoying my life when you have to put in so many hours doing something that you're not interested in at all.
So you've mentioned that a few times now. Whenever you referred to law as in the make a lot of money, was that
Mhm.
your primary driver that was putting you through law school in terms of your
No, it
motivation?
was insane. I was an insane person because you have to make these decisions when you're so young. And I loved school and I was really good at school. So I kept just trying to get to the top of that. Even after graduating law school, I went to get my master's in taxation because I just wanted to go to more school. And
You're a
that
tax
is
lawyer?
what?
You're a tax lawyer?
I was a tax lawyer, yeah.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. I
boring,
didn't know who
boring,
I was
boring.
talking to.
But no, that was it wasn't a money thing at all. I really just don't. I'm not a big like, oh, I want a huge house or nice car.
Yeah,
I
well,
just wanted to keep going to school, and I didn't really think about the consequences of it until I was working, and I was like, wait a second, I don't want this job.
well, it's fair enough to recognize that. I mean, if you don't want kids, you don't need as much money.
Right, it's true.
So Phil has gone small, small, small And I like just small and wide on the turn. It makes a lot of sense. But this block river bet, I feel, is just going to get abused. You would expect, though, given this is a 3-bet pot, Phil's going to have a advantage of top boats here. So this raise from Freak is a little ambitious, but I just expected it. It's just how Freak's been playing against these sizings, and this is the spot for Phil to have the block induce. This is the spot. If he bet folds here, he kind of has himself to blame. Maybe he didn't think Freak has the cojones to rip it whenever Phil's got all the ace-ace combos here protecting him, but in an absolute, the absolute amount of combos that he is protecting himself here with this line is not that many. You'd imagine his queen, queen, 7-7, queen 10, and 10-7 would have checked at some point for a decent amount of them. So he just doesn't have that many boats. It's a deceptively weak river betting range of Phil, and Freak pounces on it immediately. You got to respect the guy. That is top class play.
Yeah.
But back to 36 days straight of MTTs. So we're talking like 6 to 12-hour days. Is that right?
Yeah. I went crazy. But really, like, poker hasn't been, especially MTTs. They haven't been great. I'm in Nevada, and the fields weren't big. There wasn't any reason to really grind that hard. And then after everyone was forced to stay home, it got really good, really fast. The guarantees got huge. And I had that feeling of like, this isn't going to last forever. And just like, this is the time to put your head down and just play a million hours. And then I'm over it now. I'm tired.
Wow. I mean, I would be too. I would have lasted about 3.
Yeah, but you're studying a lot. I feel like that's a good,
not really.
Well, you sound like you study a lot. So.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm unfortunate to have a memory that's quite good for poker and quite bad for personal life. So
hard to be good at everything.
Yeah, well, I guess that's why I'm single. But so it's I see a sim and I'll remember it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you do that for even 50 hours and you've got a decent chunk of the tree that you know what to do in. It doesn't have to be an absolute number of hours. There's some people out there that study like over 1,000 hours. And it's just you guys going to take a graduate degree in your format. Wow, look at that. King X over King X. And we had tiny bet, like 6th pot on the turn. Phil raises small. And then check. Phil getting off the hook in a cooler situation for basically no money. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, Ari recognizing that my girlfriend is Vision.
Oh.
Can't say you're wrong. By the way, please talk over me, interrupt me. I'm a louder personality here, so
it's hard with doing commentary remotely. It's tough to see when someone's going to jump in with analysis or not, so it's my bad.
I understand. Well, and does Phil rep the trips? Nope. Checks back. All of Freak's hands just went way up in value. His bluffs now have a very high EV bluff. His showdown hands now running into a less, a weaker range of Phil, and his nuts. Well, I guess those went down in value, but overall, Freak's doing. He's very happy to see the turn check back, and here he goes small and wide. What we just saw from Phil on the other table. Chat, we need some advice. We need some tips on some table names. Yeah, Ari Kontonatsios, you got me. The guy unable to talk to ladies, 100%. Give me a rooftop bar in Hollywood, please. I'm dying for it. I'm actually flying to Florida so I get to socialize. How wild is that? I don't believe Phil here. I don't believe it. He's saying he's got something like 47 plus. He probably plays his naked 4x as bet when check 2 on turn. Just don't really believe this one. he's got a bunch of hands that want to be choosing to bluff here. 7-5-6, queen X, queen 9-8-6. He's got plenty of hands that can bluff here, and just don't really believe.
What are his most likely value hands?
47. Yeah, queen 4, 47, queen. I think 7-7 is probably just going to barrel off.
Or that's the spot. Anytime you ask him about his session, how do you think you played? He'll never give himself an A. Maybe that's it. That's why it's B+ capped. Because there's always one hand. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd imagine actually you're right. I think a lot of those hands are probably cards down.
Mm-hmm.
We probably don't see a lot of the ones that, because if there's so consistently him saying he thinks he's not playing so well, and cards up, it looks like he's playing just fine. It's probably in the cards down hands where he's unsure, because he also gets no clarity on whether he made the correct decision when it's a cards down hand.
Sure.
Single race pot, tripling off. Is that where we're at with Freak over on table COVID or whatever? What was it? 5G and
5G and virus, I think. I think 5G has to be one of them, because that's
5G.
just,
Yeah, virus is low effort.
Yeah,
Very,
conspiracy
very low
theories like that are just totally wild. What could the second one be?
Bat soup. I like bat soup.
Bat soup.
Can't call it the.
Just don't look appetizing to me. I just don't. I wouldn't look at that and say I'd like to taste that.
Well, different cultures, different strokes. Wow, great hand by Freak, getting max value there with middle boat. I'm just better off just playing.
Yeah, it'd just be if you thought it was fun and a challenge. Some people get motivated; they're not motivated to play unless there's some other thing, like a challenge or whatever. But if you're already motivated to play, it seems not worthwhile to start this other thing.
Yeah, I mean, I come in spurts. I haven't played very much in the last week, but I played a decent amount since quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
Aloha, it is 2:50. You can hit me up on Run It Once in the DMs if you are interested. Phil, he loves this sizing on this texture. In position versus missed c-bet. 100 BBs, so shouldn't expect too many trap check calls. Most of those are going to be put into check raise. If Freak has something like ace 6-7, ace king 6-7 nut clubs, he's just going to check pile that.
You can't give chat even an inch. They'll take a mile. They're relentless if you say one funny thing.
Wow, Freak check piling with ace 9 deuce, wheel backturn at flush draw top pair. A lot of good things going on for him, but no good. I mean, I was looking at going into real estate and then just started backing people. It's just better.
Now that's looking like a better choice now. I think the housing market's going to be kind of bad for a little while with no one having money and no one having jobs.
Oh, for sure. Although actually, a lot of the stats thrown out about how many Americans aren't paying their rent were completely overblown.
That's good news.
It went from 97 to 94, not having paid April, instead of 97 to 66, like all the news outlets were reporting. It's just fear mongering. Mm-hmm. I mean, they used a stat that was not taking into account. It was like taking the weekend off, and then when people don't pay rent, and then not taking into account the next day when.
Okay.
And then by the end of the month, almost everyone had paid. It's just a misunderstanding. Wow. So Phil raised flop in position, and then Freak calls and jams this turn. Is that the line?
I was reading chat. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty sure that's what went down. Freak saying, "I've got the Jack 10." He does, and Phil binks it 3-pair flush draw.
Wow.
Gimme. Interesting to note, the King of Spades would have been no good. Freak would have made a straight flush.
Gross. I've seen that at poker tables before. It's some of these prop bets are so nasty. I don't understand
Oh,
paying someone to like put a chip in their mouth. I don't. I think that
well,
might be a guy thing. I just cannot fathom.
it's a power thing.
Super gross.
I'm dead serious. A lot of it's ego and power. I mean, I didn't really understand this before I went to college, and I met a few people that were fabulously wealthy, you know, 9, 10,
Mhm.
11 figure, whatever. And some of them are very unassuming, but some of them know it. They feel it,
Yeah.
and you can tell of how they interact with people that power dynamics are really what gets them off.
Yeah.
And you know, having control over someone at a poker table for them to do something that you
Yeah.
would never do.
It's it's weird for it to use it in a mean way that like endangers someone. I had a friend who was like titanium card at Borgata, which means you've probably lost like $1 million gambling that year.
Hmm.
Um, and he used it in a nice way though. He was like a fun person to hang out with, and he would just tip 100 for everything. So like the waitress would be like jogging back to the table in heels with our drinks. And so like that's a nice way to use your power, right? Is to just be
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm gonna make everyone's night better. I can't imagine paying someone to get sick, basically. Like it's kind of mean.
yeah. Well, uh, you might be hitting on a core truth there. Power corrupts. Or,
Yeah.
you know. Dramatic River over on 5G. It's 9 of clubs. Going to be hitting Phil slightly more. Should see a pretty chunky sizing coming out of Phil, piling in a bunch of his, for instance, middle pairs, maybe 10-10, deciding to turn it into a bluff. Well, that probably has no showdown. 8-8, if he peels flop as weak as 8-8, he's going to turn that into a bluff here. He's got to find enough bluffs to justify his 9x density to have an appropriate ratio. He chooses pot. Phil's saying, I got so many bluffs. Taking almost all of his spades here. Bluffing with them, the ones that checked back turn to realize their equity. Wow, quads.
Oh, all the twos. Nice hand.
Okay, I don't know what happened there because Freak didn't have to think about it for very long, so he probably had either naked aces, no blocker, or 9.
Oh wow, Omaha72 says I'm a dealer in Hialeah down in Miami. We'll be having 5 or 6 handed tables with acrylics in the middle. Oh, like the plexiglass thing, right? House games will be popular. I'm wondering how dealers feel about it. Because the players obviously are able to choose how much risk they want to take if they want to play live or not. But for people who are collecting unemployment and then their jobs exist again, so that they have to go back to them or they won't get unemployment anymore, how do they feel about it? Because it's like not, I don't know, that's not
Yeah,
great.
especially if this bill in the House passes.
Yeah.
Although this is all a very U.S. centric view. I mean,
Hmm.
Hawkeye Daniel, you should look into that more and see whether those people just simply they hadn't gotten rid of the virus. Not that they'd gotten it again, but worth checking into. There were some people in South Korea they thought had been reinfected, but had just never gotten rid of it. Phil, potentially filling up over here. Sorry, I just can't help it.
Dad
Uh,
joke.
yeah. I'm so ready to be a dad. Yeah, just put the chips in. I call. Let's pop one out. But maybe not the diction you should be using if you truly are ready to be a dad. So Phil half potting it here. I like this. He's got a whole ton of air. Like he's got so much air that he's probably setting up for half pot. If I had to guess, going to be SPR 1.2 or so. Yeah, Hawkeye. I think that would call into the efficacy of the testing more so than the. But you know, who knows? I'm not claiming to know. I'm not claiming either way's correct. I'm just pointing out there's a lot of uncertainty
Yeah.
surrounding that.
It's hard to know what to do. I think taking an average of like all the different news sites and also paying attention to world news, not just US news, and just figuring out what to think from that. I guess it's like the only way I know how to do it rather than like pick a bias site and listen to them. You'll become a crazy person.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, Phil deciding not to pile into quads. He had the airball, the 6-6 deuce.
I'm a like nurturer for sure. I want to have like 100 pit bulls and rescue them. So it's not like I'm like, nope, I'm too selfish. I want to travel and never worry about this stuff.
I
I
mean,
just
do you
think,
have a partner?
yeah. for like 6 years.
Oh,
So,
okay. So it's a matter of choice, not
yeah,
lack of opportunity.
yeah.
Understood. Well, I won't pry. I hope you find happiness in whichever decision you end up choosing.
Thank you, you too. I hope you find happiness in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Well, I will for at least a week. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. I can't
This is
wait.
great. You didn't think we were going to get this deep in the weeds in personal life, right? You're like, I thought I was going to analyze some PLO hands.
Oh, no. It's normal. It's normal. I can't hide it. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand these sizings. This is something both players are doing on this type of texture, and I just play way more polar in these spots.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably not accomplishing as much with my air as they are. Like they're probably playing a more cohesive, higher EV strategy, and I'm using a long sword. They're using a dagger, and I don't know. We just understand poker differently, apparently. Like humor me, right? On the turn, the nuts is a straight.
Mm-hmm.
Equities are not static, but relatively static. Way ahead, way behind situation in a frequency-based interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And they're wagering a sizing that doesn't set up for a jam on the river when by betting you're definitionally leveraging your nuts. Like I just don't get this. I don't understand it. You're gonna pot the river but not bet turn to the sizing where pot's all in on the river. How is this correct? And it's happened multiple times now. I just don't get it.
And they've both been doing it?
Oh yeah.
Or okay. That's interesting.
Major point over on 5G. The inflection point's now on the turn in the hand where Freak bets flop. Whether Phil continues versus a double barrel here is significant. Freak having a higher density of two pairs and sets in his smaller turn barrel over on deep state, allowing him to leverage the paired board, perhaps getting Phil to lay down what we would consider a monster. And there it is, Freak piling. This is the inflection point. Does Phil continue? Something called implied odds running through Phil's mind right now. We've asked him in interviews multiple times, and he says sometimes he's just counting odds, doing some counting outs, doing some math. Is that what he's doing right now with a wrap?
So back to the other table and the turn sizing that you thought was pretty weird. Is that ever just trying to induce a raise because it looks weird? Or like is there, am I being too surface level?
Mm-hmm. Well, my response to that would be he should be doing that with the nuts occasionally.
Okay.
Or perhaps as the dominant sizing for his nuts. I don't know what his strategy is, but point being, if he is raised, he will be protected some of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So not that he's doing it to try and induce a raise specifically, but rather the primary concern would be to protect the other hands in that sizing.
Gotcha. It's a shame we don't see more showdowns when that happens.
I mean,
so we can get an idea of what's going on.
We just saw something absolutely absurd.
Okay.
Phil on ace 9-3 rainbow. So Phil opens Jack 10-7. Right, we've got Jack 10-7 with a suit. If this was one of those hands, Cliff, with the gifts, you've got the Game of Thrones. What is it? The Night Watch guy. You're standing on the cliffs, looking out over the frozen tundra to the north of you, and you got your sword, and you get the Jack 10-7 single suited. Yeah, okay, we call it a 3-bet. Then you get ace 9-3. The Night King's descending on you in a dragon, and you get 3-bet on, third pot bet, and you're like, you know what? We'll see a turn. You kind of tuck under the wall, turn a queen, best card in the deck. Guy barrels for pot, and you're like, well, we've come this far. If he's going to pout into me, okay, I guess we see the river. And then you see a river that he basically never hits, and you occasionally hit. You've got a pair of jacks. You're beating nothing. And you're like, you know what? Let's just tap the felt. Give up here. I mean, I don't know what Phil is doing in that hand. I straight up don't understand. You got an ace high board. You got middle pair, no draw. 2 outs to improve, pretty much. Hit your nut card, call off a pot size bet, and then check when you miss. I don't know. Don't
Apparently,
understand.
Phil is the three-eyed raven, and he understands things that we cannot see.
Yeah, well, he was just trying to be that guy in the wheelchair or whatever at the very
Yeah.
end, trying to drill his backdoor straight, but he did not hit backdoor Bangkok, confirmed. Um, very juicy river over on Deep State. Bet and raise going in. Does Phil donk? If he has something like 89 of hearts, he might choose to bluff here. There it is. But I think we saw actually that Freak had Queen 9 with Jack 10 as well. So even if Phil had hit his runner, it would have been to a Chopsky.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Phil just lit a used beamer on fire there. Don't really know what to say. He's floating, question mark, and then picks up equity and then value checks river when he's never good. I just don't get it. Because anytime that Phil's able to check back that river, we're already in a line where Freak would have bluffed with worse. So how are you winning when you check back there? But yeah, this is a very tough spot for Freak, and there is the 89 with hearts, ladies and gentlemen. Freaky, and Freak picks it off of top set. Love the call. He's got balls. Top set, no blocker, single heart. A couple things going his way, a couple things going the other way, and he picks it off. Man, I can't explain that. Because I'm not out here, and sometimes you'll have, if you've ever seen the clips of Daniel Negreanu where he calls like 5 or 6 hands before hero calling, and then they clip it to the one hand he says out loud, and go, "Oh my god, he predicted the hand." Have you ever seen those?
Yes, of course. This is how
Yeah,
we built the lore surrounding some of the big names from the past.
yeah, exactly. Well, I'll put it this way: I called out one hand.
Mhm.
I
Fair.
don't know how that happens. It's I mean, I'll put it this way: I feel bad for the regs I play sometimes. It's, it's fun, but wow, ace 8 for Phil with a straight blocker. Not going for a value there? I think that's fine. Meanwhile, Freak saying, I can hero call you. I can also just jam my equity into you on dynamic textures. What can I just cooler you, please? Barreling off on this 984 deuce 210. Phil gets to peel here and play anything from ace to jack aggressively. Those are pretty much all his cards. Offsuit king, not going to be one of them. Freak's pretty happy to see that river. Should see a bunch of his checks. He should be taking, besides king 8, whatever, king 9, some of his value bets, he's going to be taking most of his bluff catchers and playing them as check to induce from Phil's draw heavy range. We'll see if Phil understabs this river. I mean, I'd be shocked if he piles here. He's repping a pretty narrow value range. Third pot, blocks. I was going to say, what do you think about this? But you're I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm the fun player here, so.
Yeah. This is quite an odd decision. Because I mean, what Phil's got a bunch of one pairs here. Some of those one pairs would have bluffed if he checked. Maybe this is just giving Freak a really cheap price on his bluffs, and Phil struggles to call here. Well, I'm not struggling to call with 9 Dewey, and yeah, Freak did have the bluff. Usually, if your first instinct is to go, this is strange, flick the chips in.
Yep. So, yeah. See, there are some things that cross over from no limit.
But yeah, Phil having the automatic call there with 2 pair. Mandatory automatic, put the chips in. Really tough spot for Freak if he has something like ace, queen, queen, single.
So with PLO, no one in the world ever folds 2 3-bets, but I guess 4-bets are a different animal.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a cooler here. Someone might be out of line. I'm guessing it's Freak. I mean, he's always calling this last money. He just hasn't clicked the. Yeah, he is out of line. Well, I don't think that's out of line. I think it's fine, but he was light.
Huge pot for Phil.
Yeah, not the flop Freak's really looking for.
Did I miss a big pot, or was Phil mashing this hard before I left? Almost 200K on 2 tables.
Yeah, well, Phil did take some down, but it was a fairly even fight while you were gone. Phil going small and wide over on 5G. Freak gonna have a lot of protects here in his flatting range. Does Phil play turn his check? This is the decision point in the hand. Phil does check. Freak maybe deciding his sizing now. It's just the flow of POO. He's going to be betting here. Like, it's just a guarantee. There it is. He's got a couple checkbacks, maybe like queens of hearts or something, but he's piling so often, and he puts Phil to the test. And Phil calls turn and checks river. Wow. Phil, what are you doing here? Phil is of the camp where he is going to be defending appropriately in this turn spot. Slightly less than MDF, as he has a polarity disadvantage. But Phil is the kind of guy that does not like to overfold. He's going to have a bunch of one pairs here put to a very tough decision, something like King, King, Jack, no heart. What do you do? A couple of Freaks more egregious turn bets getting here on the river with 89 completing. Possibly the ace 10-10 nut hearts, although I don't know how Freak would play that. Probably not. I mean, maybe potting turn, turning it into a bluff. He could have ace 10-10 nut hearts. That would be so dirty. Could you imagine? Phil showing up with like ace, king, queen, 7, and then Freak just drilling the 10 ball. There is the 89. Wow. Phil with the top 2 blockers and a flush draw, but no good. Freak drilling that river, drawing to a non-heart king or 10. If I am correct there, getting away with murder. I actually do stuff with my ranges to earn G-Bucks in a way that I can't tell you is actually increasing my EV, but I feel it does. I'm actually serious. I'm trying to think of a good example of it. When you, God, I'm trying to come up with a hand history. Honestly, this might just be too deep, but there's some things you can do that make your range perform better long term against your opponent's range that handcuff them at certain SPRs and textures, so they're not able to get to showdown, and their pot share that they're able to claim decreases. That is leveraging your polarity advantage fundamentally to increase the G-Bucks you're earning in that spot, I guess is how I'd put it. But I mean, this is so conceptual. Let's just get back to
that might just be slightly over my head with my PLO knowledge right now, just a little.
Well, it applies to Hold'em. Like it's just a poker concept. But Freak piling it here, saying he's got 79 plus. Probably not seeing too many 79 potting though. A couple. I mean, maybe. This is a pretty narrow value range. Could see some queen, queen, jack, for instance. Phil calls. Just kind of flicks the chips in. Sees a brick. Quick check. You think Phil's trapping here? I don't know about that. Doesn't feel like it. All you can eat nuts versus second nuts. Unlucky Phil.
UFC is so interesting to me, and like my boyfriend doesn't like it. He's like, I don't like watching people just like beat the crap out of each other. I'm like, I think UFC is really cool because a lot of the times the matches are very even, and these athletes are just like sick endurance athletes. And I think it's interesting to watch, but watching a one-sided fight always makes me a little squeamish. I'm like, when people are saying, oh, they ended the match too early, I'm like, when someone's getting their face beaten in, I'm okay with them calling it.
So did you just see Ferguson fight?
But that was the last one. I missed the last UFC match, which is so crazy because I've been dying to see sports, and then I just like let it go.
I think there was UFC Jacksonville, and it was one before that. It was where he lost to Justin.
Yeah, I did not watch.
I see. Well, that was a one-sided fight. I mean, I felt bad for.
That's the one that lasted like 20 seconds or something. I saw the
No,
clip.
it went the whole distance, and he just got shellacked. It was. He had to cut weight twice, so I mean, what do you expect? But end of an era. That guy was unbeaten for longer than Conor had been in the UFC. Oh, Thallo. I mean, if I had the opportunity to take that, I snapped that off.
For Ben Lamb? Oh, of course. I'll go all in on you. I don't even really know what you look like. I got your side.
I might not back you, Thallo, but I'll give you emotional.
Oh, Thallo. I thought you were gonna fight Ben. Thallo is gonna fight Ben Lamb. Interesting.
Oh, I have no beef with that guy. I mean, he was rude to me one time, but it's not a big deal. Phil, check piling, deep state.
I know what you look like, Thallo. I misread it.
Can we recognize? Hold the phone. This is a single raise pot that went bet, raise, bet 3-bet, fold. These guys are in the streets. Yeah, did you see Tyson might come back to the ring?
Really? Who's he gonna fight? Someone else who's real old?
He might do the triple with Holyfield. Check out his Instagram. He's got a training montage where he definitely can't keep that up for more than 2 or 3 rounds, but dude, he's still got it.
How old is he now? He's got to be like late 50s?
54, 56.
Okay. Dude, how is that dude still fighting? Like, it's nuts.
Aaron, Steph, and I agree. Lay into me. Give it to me. We got a 3-bet pot with a large sizing by Freak. Typically, he's been half potting on such a texture where he has a large polarity advantage and a range advantage, and it's draw heavy, and he's deeper than 100 BBs, something like 130 BBs to start. He's choosing a slightly larger flop sizing. Add it all up, it computes. On this deuce of spades, Freak's going to have a couple traps here, like, ace 7, 8, 9 nut flush draw that just made the nizzles. Meanwhile, Phil, when he peels a larger sizing, slightly less weighted to made hands, slightly more weighted to draws, as more of his made hands are getting pushed past the point of indifference, having to fold flop. By checking back turn, Phil is protecting himself from sticking in 2 bets against the nuts in a flush over flush situation and allowing him to navigate to showdown with some of his made hands that are non-flushes that have showdown value. He could also be trying the fabled check back turn with like king, queen, 10 float to bluff river reverse check. Freak snipping off that section of the tree by betting small on river, denying Phil some future plus EV scenarios, and putting a lot of Phil's aces up, like ace 8, ace deuce, ace 9, in a pretty tough spot. They're pretty much all calls versus this sizing. However, you feel like you're just going to call and lose. So what do you do? Nice bet by Freak. Interesting to see it just about the same sizing as his flop bet. Little disrespectful. This is called leverage. Textbook case of leveraging his much stronger range. Fill in the tank. Man, if Phil repots it here, that would be gangster. Come on, Phil. I mean, once he tanks this long, he's basically not raising. So calls and loses to the thin value bet. Well played by Freak. Gotta love it. No set, no bet. Well, no problem. It's yet to be seen which player, Phil or Freak, is the better version of that. But they've been mixing it up at all kinds of stack depths, just not below 100 BB. I would have been very interested if they had some 40 BB poker as well.
That would be awesome. Thallo made the point pretty interesting that we've had fewer stack resets, but also far fewer swings in this match. That happened. Poker After Dark ran a very high stakes PLO game, and I don't know if they didn't cap the buy-in or what, but people were sitting so deep, and it actually seemed to have like chilled the action a little bit because everyone's sitting there with their like $500,000 or whatever, but no one really wanted to play $1 million pot. There wasn't that much craziness.
Yeah.
Maybe if they added an ante, that would have fixed that problem.
Well, there's an assumption going on behind what you're saying. And that's that the players in the game are going to adapt to the structure to properly play the structure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't know if you can guarantee that. My point being, if you change things up, it might not actually fix it, even if it's supposed to.
Yeah. That's kind of, I mean, that's good though. Let's say that you're the one person who is going to adjust and play aggressively and go after the antes that are in the middle, and you're going to do pretty well in that game if nobody else is caring.
Sure. I mean, the reason why those games run is because there's edge to be had from some of the players.
Mm-hmm.
So you need that. Phil, I don't really believe this. Wow. Freak protecting his 1/3 pot river. Perhaps, I mean, do you know how much of a monster you have to be to bet Jack, naked Jack on this river to be able to bet 3-bet here? You have to be such a monster. Like for Phil, it's more likely he has something like Ace Jack X of hearts or something like that that's bluffing river and then chooses to take that Jack X blocker to bet 3-bet. If Phil should be extending his value raise range on the river to 10 high straights, and Freak is putting all those in the cage. I know what it feels like to be in both parties' shoes here, and let me tell you what, I'd much rather be in Freak's. Once you put the chips in, let the other guy sort it out. Definitely a couple hands Freak can be getting out of line with here. However, if he has a Jack high straight, does he ever call the river? He always raises it, right? So yeah. There's guaranteed value combos for Freak. And no guarantee of enough bluff combos there.
I think one day I would like to just have a podcast that's sponsored by absolutely no one, that makes zero money, and that you like people just go on who are also sponsored by no one and just air all of their dirty laundry. Just go.
Yeah, Thunderdome.
Great.
Well, this actually, I don't want to host a pod, but this would be a lot of fun. I would really enjoy some Thunderdoming.
Yeah, if you like represent a company, you're not invited. You can only be like a solo individual person who wants to like fling some poo.
Well, the person representing the company can only come on the next episode to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many things that would make myself laugh that if I said on this stream, I would get in a lot of trouble for. So I'm just biting my tongue right now. But I'd have a couple episodes, that's for sure.
Yeah. No friends, but you know, you get to at least air your grievances.
Well, you know, my friends are outside of the poker world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna step on anyone's toes.
You know what's funny? Zach said first guest has to be Josh Arye. This summer, Josh had a super mean tweet towards me. He like signed on and watched 1 minute of commentary and was like, "Who is this girl? Like, who is this girl who's like trying to God mode and say what everyone should be doing?" And I was like, "Dude." So I just responded. I was like, "Thanks, Josh." And he was just like, we had a conversation by DM where he like told me what he found annoying, and then I was telling him all stuff. And by the end, he was just like, "I think you're doing a great job." I was like, "What?" It's like very funny how people will, when it's anonymous, be very mean, and then when you actually like have one interaction, they're just like completely different. Like the internet is such a weird place.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people get embarrassed when they finally actually talk to the person. Oh, you're a real human that I was saying this negative thing about me? You know.
It's weird. In poker, all the people doing commentary are real humans. Like no one's celebrities. It's like, I don't know.
Wow, Freak piling. I mean, he just has to have it, right? I mean, here's an interesting aspect about this texture. This is a little bit of a maybe a non-intuitive aspect of PLO. It's pretty hard to have ace rag here.
Ooh.
That you want to turn into like your ace 10 9 8 is pretty much the hand you'd start like bluffing here with, and you probably don't. You probably feel it has enough show value. Phil saying all you can eat. Freak has hero folded in these spots before where he tanks down and then folds, just giving Phil credit.
Yeah, the on Tuesday as well, I think there's an additional like 12K and he was in the tank the whole entire time. Let's see what we got. Jack's full.
Well, the more shocking part of that hand is that Freak pot called 10-6. That is so thin. I mean, LFG PG for sure. Can that possibly be correct, though? Multiple question marks, possibly upside down, as confused as if this was in Spanish. What is he doing? Freak, half potting, Jack 10-3 rainbow. We do have poker to be played.
Mm-hmm.
And this 9 of diamonds, if he continues, he should be going big. Pretty tough turn for a lot of his naked overpairs. Ace, ace, king in a particularly tough spot. Do you turn it into a bluff? Do you try and take it to showdown? It tells you a lot about how someone thinks about the game. Meanwhile, pot. Phil gets to close his eyes with 7-8 and call.
Yeah, we're not sure why they're on one table right now, guys.
I mean, does Freak give up here if he just has queen? Because Phil only has a few hands he's folding, something like 2 pair flush draw. Pretty hard to have a niche hand like that. You'd imagine he would have set up a slightly deeper SPR if he was just running a pure double blocker bluff. Then again, he may be trying to go for max pot size to get this 30% pot bet through. 40% pot. What does Phil do with Queen, Jack 10? Big question. Weakest hand, Freak could be value jamming here. Maybe a really sad ace, ace, queen with diamonds. Somehow showed up here. I miss the days playing underrolled, flicking in a even more complicated version of POL when I didn't understand POL in the first place. Those splashy days were fun back before Munker came out. Before the aliens came. So third pot on Deep State, we've been seeing some alternating sizings. For instance, if you plug this into Vision, I think it wants you to have a decent chunk of hands potting it here. I think it goes small and pot, so Phil being consistent. On this turn, pretty tough to navigate. At this SPR, Phil doesn't really want to pot call off with a bunch of his hands, top 2, a flush draw, something like that, probably leaning towards check with no straight blocker. Phil's ranges are fairly strictly constructed here. I don't see him deviating very often at all. Phil doesn't really make mistakes. He continues to barrel small and probably wide. This is just asking to be messed with. I mean, 10-8 here is the easiest value jam of Freak's life. Yeah, you get snapped by King 10 sometimes, but I imagine, think about what Freak has to have here to fold, right? What can he call flop with that folds this turn bet? I can't come up with a hand. Ace, 6, 7, 8, no backdoor? Maybe. But basically every hand drawing is calling. So Freak's range is extremely wide here, and Phil, by betting small on the turn, is including a higher density of 2 pairs and sets, meaning his coverage on this river is actually much higher. We should expect pot out of Phil if he's going to bet, unless he's specifically trying to target a weaker range of Freak, which he does. He goes for the block. I don't get this. I don't like it. I don't know what's going on. I mean, are you blocking with ace queen? Are you trying to induce on a board where you have a massive polarity advantage, so Freak shouldn't be jamming as a bluff pretty much ever? Right? You're not going to get many value. You're not going to get many bluff jams. People might be a nit here instead of jamming like Jack 9, right? So, I mean, if you have a straight, why didn't you? I mean, what? Okay, throw the book out. What?
Oh, wow.
What?
Wow. So you think Phil missed out on some value there?
I mean, Phil just induced the shit out of Freak. That's for sure.
Freak did not take the bait.
Freak did take the bait, right?
He called, right? He called the river?
No, he jammed.
He jammed. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Phil went third pot on the river and then jammed. Like, that sizing is just so awkward. It looks like it's inducing the shove, but Freak shouldn't be jamming in that texture because he runs into exactly Phil's hand. And then he jams and runs into Phil's hand. Like those turn and river sizings are so curious. Meanwhile, Phil 4-balling over on 5G.
So that's pretty cool. Didn't we say before when he was betting so small on the turn that at some point like there's a plan? There's a
Jamming
plan
as
for
a
that,
bluff, pretty
right?
much ever.
And was that it? Did he finally get his payoff?
Well, yeah, by sizing down on the
Line.
turn, he can include those top sets for sure. Yeah. You know, I mentioned he's including 2 pairs in sets in that sizing, but
yeah, that would be a good
all-
one to flip if anyone could flip that for us. That'd be sweet. Thanks.
yeah. Meanwhile, I butcher it, but the freak is
Right.
bluff jamming with such a small number of combos on that river that I don't really get trying to induce there. Like maybe he's just recognizing freak as such a significant air portion on the river that he wants to induce from, but most of freak's air doesn't have pair blockers that are very happy to jam there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have just like a naked pocket pair and a flush draw, you're not turning that hand into a bluff. Meanwhile, ace high board for Phil in this 4-bet pot on 5G, getting through the small bet. Yeah, I mean, if you're... All right, I'm not going to engage in that. Where did you learn NLO8 strategy? There's a lot of articles and then a couple of videos back in the day on training sites that are now defunct. Wow, freak firing right back with a 4-bet.
Plus 90K now. Thanks for the constant tally run at once, Nick. That's been way more fun getting to tell people. Because last time we were kind of in the dark for the middle of the day. But 90K, let's go.
Pretty even texture between Phil and freak. Phil should be sticking it in here a decent amount of time with his 3-bet call range. Yeah, Thallow, I know what you're getting at, but I mean, that is, of all the boards, Phil's going to have the most traps on that board. Well, there it is. Phil goes with it. I don't know, man. I think it's pretty different to like a queen high board or a jack high board or something like that with the equivalent substructure. Phil drills it on the turn. Come to Poppy. Naked wrap backdoor flush draw for Phil, and he gets there.
There's some irony to Thallow being the chat police mod here.
Is he a Nazi?
Thallow's a heavy favorite to be timed out at the minimum in other channels.
Oh, really?
He's gonna, yeah, the one time I was commentating, he did not like that I said he rage quit the PLO stream, but I was just saying it was funny.
I mean...
He's getting bad beat horribly on this Peppermill live stream, and at some point he was just like, F this, rack up, I'm out.
It's pretty similar to the types of people that typically become cops in America, no? Okay, maybe too political. back to PLO. Oh boy, I shouldn't have brought that up. Oh, sad but true. So Phil getting check piled on here by freak on a texture that Phil should be doing pretty well on. Freak probably going with something like pocket pair 8-9. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, off to the races. Should be close to a flip unless we have a Kula. Please no set over set for Phil Daddy. Oh, set over wrap, and Phil banks it. Let's go.
Wow, huge day for Phil so far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chill out, crew. Crouton is seeing birds from up here and is now freaking out.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of freaky things going on. Heath Ledger, I have a technical co-founder that is wonderful who helped develop Staker Hub. I worked with him to design it and test it. We have a stable ourselves that we use it for. It was originally an in-house tool. Freak attacking this very low texture that the BB should be doing pretty well on. Phil starting off with a large sizing, vision approved. Certainly, I used to have some priors before using solvers that I would size down on light textures, and I still do exploitatively against weaker competition, but when you're playing the best of the best, you got to keep doing what the solver says, and Phil with the big sizing bet calls. Interesting turn. A lot of freaks flop 2 pairs now in jail. Phil is probably... I'm actually not going to predict what they're going to do here because freaks ranges should be fairly well split between bet and check. Now he goes for it, piling. Maybe something like 8, 5, 6, 3. Phil trying to decide, can I call? Can I see this river? Pretty dynamic texture. Lots of 5-card hands still yet to be made. Higher straights, flushes, opportunity for board pair to make a full house. This texture is one of the most difficult to play out of position because the max you can put in the pot in Pot Limit Omaha is 9,900 euros here. And when you get to the river, you're going to be playing roughly SPR1 out of position when the board can change on something like 2/3, like 70% of the rivers, the nuts changes. Here, the nuts has changed. Offsuit 7. Is this freak's saving grace or his demise? We'll find out. Hard to see what kind of bluffs freak could check pile here. And he does slow down. Does Phil give him all the biscuits?
Come on, Falcons.
You imagine when Phil shows up in this spot, he's going to be jamming a lot. Like it's, I expect a lot of jams here. Anything less than a jam would shock me. Check or pot going through Phil's mind when he tanks down to 7 seconds. He usually pots. There it is. He's got some timing tells, ladies and gentlemen. And freak deep in the tank. If you've got 56 here, no heart, no pair blocker, well, what on earth do you do? Give this man a car. So when I'm in this spot, and I'm not playing against Phil, but when I'm in this spot and I call here with a straight thinking, flush draws, straight draws, I always lose to a bet. So
yeah, I was trying to think what flops the turn that would be a bluff here that Phil has. Just there's hearts. Do you have like 10 jacks and stuff like that miss and go for this? Hearts and
Jack,
some kind of straight draws?
Yeah, Jack 10 10 with hearts is for sure a bluff candidate here.
Okay.
Very rare, very hard to have. I can't come up with too many bluffs here. I really can't.
Actionfreak agrees with you.
Maybe 42 with hearts, Ace King 4-2 with hearts.
Basti, even losing internet connection. I was in Rosarito. That was a thing. It just happened. Like one time I was during Scoop, somebody drove their car into whatever the power source was for like the entire area that we lived in, and everyone just lost internet for several hours. We were all in thousands of dollars of tournaments, and it was a thing you just like sigh really loudly, be kind of sad that your day is ruined, and just like get on with it. I feel like even that wouldn't affect me, but yeah, I don't know. I guess like the higher the stakes, like if I was at like the Sunday Millions final table and that happened, yeah, that would be painful.
Oh, I got some news for you, Jamie.
What?
We are 1,337 people watching this heads-up challenge in overtime. The elite watching the elite.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What was this? 3-bet pot bet call and now action on Phil. Juicy. Juicy. This is putting all of Freak's pair plus draws in the cage. Was it really single raise, check raise flop, Alderbomb? Thank you. I mean, pretty similar ranges, to be honest. Slightly more draws for Phil. Still going to be strongly favored over Freak's range on this 4, although Freak will feel obligated to call it off here with a lot of his overpairs. Audubon, appreciate the real-time hand history. Phil probably sticks this in. I mean, how does he not when you show up to the spot? No, fade the snap. Hang time 5 seconds. Yep. All right. Now we're down to the pocket pairs. Freak deciding what pocket pairs he calls or folds here. doesn't have to worry about deuce 4 at this point. King,
Chase
king.
Taylor. Oh, sorry. You're talking about PLO. I'll let you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say like ace, king, 3, no hearts. Probably peeling this puppy. You want to have a jack blocker, you want to have a 7 blocker, 4 blocker. It becomes a value hand. So yeah, I mean, if you have ace, king, 7 backdoor diamonds, maybe question mark, you're calling it off here. Completely unblocking the missed straight draws, completely unblocking the hearts. Does Freak have the heart? I kind of believe Phil here. Single raise pot, check raise, bet jam. Pretty strong line. Right. It's just, I mean, look, if I was streaming, and I used to stream back in the day, but not much anymore. If I was streaming POL at the stakes I usually play, and I've got a bunch of regs tagged as Rex. I mean, just as like weak players. If they saw that, I would not feel bad at all. Like they've earned it over the last 50,000 hands. You know, it's not.
Yeah. It has started some very hilarious wars though. Like Doug Polk had Mercier tagged as a fish. Or as a
Yeah.
remember that? And
Yeah.
fighting.
Hashtag bad rig. I mean, look, I'm intentionally not starting any kind of conflict like that, so you're not going to see me stream.
Mm-hmm.
Bad regs. I mean, if there weren't bad regs, we wouldn't have this game, right?
True. I'm a huge favorite to just, this is the way that I tilt when I'm taking notes on someone. My notes are like 50% useful, and then there's people who are just tagged with like, when I'm tilting, I'm so mad I lost the hand that I put a completely useless note on them. And it'll just be like, slow roll this guy, or like, this idiot, something like that. And then later, I'll be in a big pot versus this person. I'm like, oh, sweet, I have a note. And I look at the note and I'm like, idiot. Why didn't I actually take a note on the hand?
Well, speaking of hands, Phil check piling here saying he's got the nutter butters or some kind of kings of hearts over on 5G. Freak piling it off, repping Broadway. Is Phil going to call with something like 2-pair flush draw or a set, king 9? Maybe decision point in the hand for 89. Unclear. Freak should be reasonably balanced here, having a lot of ace-x hands that can be betting, although the queen jack 10 nature of the board makes most of his ace-x 3-bet range have some kind of showdown that doesn't want to triple off as a bluff. Meanwhile, Phil gets called on deep state, 4 of hearts, huge river. If Phil was check raise bluffing with some kind of blockers plus hearts, he gets to have an easy click it in. Nope, not today. Does Freak put the rest of the chips in? A sigh and cry spot for Phil. However, there could be some justice. 7 of spades coming in on the nuts versus top set.
Wow.
All's fair and friendly on the river. Phil navigating to showdown there. Having nut straight with heart. Oh, he's snapping that puppy off so fast. Meanwhile, over on 5G, Phil in the tank. What do you do with king 9 with the king of spades? Cry, sigh, roll over, die, unknown. What do you do? Could be a flush over flush situation. Can't really get away from a jack high flush here in Phil's shoes. You just have to put the chips in. Got to lose that money. What's he going to do? I would take Freak's action, although he totally feasibly could have aces with the ace of spades, something like that, leveraging the more nutted section of his 3-bet range that bet jams here. Man, these are the spots where you need the 60-second time banks. Phil going deep in the tank. What's the weakest hand Freak could have here? Could he have a king high flush? It's possible. Not king jack of spades, but maybe king deuce of spades. Freak gets it through. Phil gives up. All right. Well, meanwhile, we've got king jack 8-4 two-tone. Looks like 3-bet pot? Question mark. I mean, honestly, we should be playing this on stream to educate people if they haven't seen it. But It's got 27 million views. Your cat's named Beaker, and you haven't seen this. Oh, this is all you. I'm dropping it in the chat. Can I post links in the Run It Once chat? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I'm probably gonna get banned.
Probably not. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, I'll watch it after the stream is over.
Oh, I've done it.
Do it. Oh, because you're a mod, maybe they let you do it.
Well, my privileges are modified, I suppose. So we are able to see Phil check back this turn. Not too good for Phil, though his number of straights pretty existent here. 10-9 of diamonds, ace 10, ace jack 10, all that stuff. Freak respecting them. All right. Phil half potting it here or potting it? I'm curious to see what sizing he chooses. He does occasionally tank all the way down and check, though. Phil's known to be very careful about his deliberation before firing off thousands of euros into the void. Pot it is. Yeah, weakest hand I'd expect to see here is something like the most bizarrely played Queen, Queen 10 you've ever seen. But typically just 10-9 plus. Nine-year-old Twitch account indeed, Thallow. Check out that viewer count on my profile. I used to stream StarCraft back in the day. I actually streamed on Twitch 8 or 9 years ago while multi-tabling a StarCraft match and a no-limit tournament. That I took down. Those were the days. Ace X there. Wow. Okay, hold on. Sorry, 1 second. Freak having 2 diamonds in his hand, not a very good thing. However, having the ace 9, the best blockers he could possibly have, and a set.
I think Phil is up 110 right now. We didn't get an update for a little while, but he was up 60 on break, and it looks like he's up 50 since then. So we'll go with 110.
Where's the total? It's in giant green letters. Thank you, chat.
I think, though, right, didn't they say that the more accurate one would be fed to us? That it's not keeping up quite with real time? I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, we are in OT today, 40 minutes past the usual expiration. It's quite possible these guys both want to see 130K pot, somewhat lock up the challenge for whoever's way it goes. You know, if Phil was 300K in the green rather than Freak coming back to close to even. Wow. Just piling this puppy in. Every single one of these hands, the money can be going in. It's just, would hate to be in Freak's shoes with something like an ace 9 6, feeling obligated to call turn, check, and then facing Phil putting in 32,000 euros. Just uncomfortable. Pretty easy call fold with that particular combo. Yep, pure check out of Freak. Shouldn't see any leads out of him, given how ranges are constructed here. Does Phil follow through? I don't know, man. I don't really believe this one. Expecting to see a hand in cookie jar. I mean, statistically, he's going to have more value bets than bluffs, right? That's how this game works. But for whatever reason, I just don't really feel like he's got it.
You've been like, I give you like 80%. So I believe you.
What, he doesn't have it 80% of the time?
No, I said with your predictions, I think you're around 80%. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I don't know how. I have no idea how, but it's just know. Yeah, being results oriented there possibly. But yeah, Phil choosing not to bluff the busted gut shot would have got it through versus the king 3-3. That definitely can't withstand the river bet.
Somehow 08 also, like limit 08, I find it to be fun. And I'll like play the WSOPs in the summer when they have it, and there are just so many people who even their starting hands are just like complete trash. So that game is dying. I guess just people play how they've always played for the last 40 years and don't care.
So have you noticed that different game types, the regs have slightly different personalities depending on the central themes of the game?
Yeah,
I absolutely cannot stand 08 regs at live
Yeah,
cash.
very grumpy, extremely grumpy people.
Oh yeah, they're the type of guy that has their tablet out while they're multi-tabling on 2 different underground online poker sites like Poker Mania or whatever, while they're talking about how much makeup they're into the reg next to them, while they're getting their, comped alcohol, sorry, not alcohol, their herbal green tea or whatever from the
Yep.
waiter at the Aria. Like, just, that's actually a real anecdote. Just can't do it. Just go home.
I think you're playing higher stakes than me. I was just playing 2040 at Rio, and there were 2 older guys that got in a fight over wanting a setup, because one wanted a setup because he was running bad and the other didn't want a setup because he was running good. And there was a legit almost fight between 2 old people.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean,
those are the stakes I was at.
yeah, I hear you. It's so wonderful, the different kinds of interactions you get to see at the poker table.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on all 08 regs. I'm hating on those particular kinds of
No, I think
broke
it's
nits.
all of them.
Oh, you think it's all of them? Okay, Pat, take your comment. Take your comment up with Jamie, not me.
Next year is going to be really interesting to see what live poker looks like.
Yeah, I agree. Freak here looks like he's just barreling off small. Phil going to decide, do I rep the quads? Something like ace, king, 10. Pretty good hand to raise here. I'm curious. I'm actually going to run a quick little sim. We have a bunch of time. I'm curious what density of Phil's flop range is going to have Jack X after the turn. Can I beat him to the punch? That is, oh no, there it is. I'll get there. 1 second. And real-time solvers aren't a thing, right? He has 7% of his range is quads, roughly. That's a lot of quads. 7% of the flop range. And as you go further down the hand, you're peeling off sections of Phil's range. He could have something like 30% of his range be quads here. It's actually possible. That's how this game works. Just have to have him continue with half his hands twice, and there you go. Freak in the tank. Gives it up. Respects the thickness of Phil's quads. I just got a DM on Insta from one of you guys. The only acceptable DMs till the end of the stream are one-liner jokes that are actually funny, for the record, guys. I haven't checked it. You have a chance to redeem yourself. Give me something that, would crack Jamie up. She's pretty hard to make laugh.
That would be so refreshing if that's the type of DMs. I have to say, people have not been as bad as they used to be with creepiness.
Really?
Creepiness is a thing. I think mid-20s, you just get, if you're a girl on the internet in your mid-20s, you just get confronted with 100% creepiness. But how cute would that be if someone's whole game is just to send jokes? Yeah, I slid into her DMs and told her a joke about fish.
Yeah, I might actually, it sounds like a pretty good exploitative strat. I might start implementing this.
Yeah.
People here don't know me well enough to know that. Oh my goodness, straight flush. Bang, bang. Phil potting it, getting called with the nutter butters, straight nizzles, coconuts. Probably, given he has the queen jack of clubs, probably a cooler there. TBH.
Run It Once poker account with all the dad jokes.
Oh, yeah. That's a wonderful one. Why did the picture go to jail? Because it was framed. Water count, we are past 4. We're in uncharted territory in this OT. Bringing it into hour number 6. Jamie, do you think Phil's a top 5 PLO player right now?
I have no idea how to gauge this. I
Yeah,
know that he's beating a guy right now that you said was probably top 3 or close to it. I think if I were to judge the things I know about, he's got to be like top 3 in the world mental game, because I don't think that he wavered at all in believing in himself when he was down so much money that every other person kind of was like throwing shade his way.
yeah,
So that's one thing I
believe
can
that.
judge. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's at least top 15.
Mhm.
Somewhere between top 15 and top 3. Unclear.
And that's in the whole world. Being top 15 at anything in the whole world is pretty impressive.
Especially as a rec.
Yeah.
Right? You got to point that out, especially as a
Yeah.
rec.
We're joking, but that's true. If you're spending your time on running a business and you're a family man now, then you aren't as pro as the people who don't have any other responsibilities in their lives and can just
Oh,
study all day.
you're joking. I'm not. He is
Oh,
not a
okay.
full-time. He's not a full-time pro.
Yeah.
Right?
Calling someone a wreck, though, I'm like, there's so much in between being a pro and a wreck.
Well, I mean,
You
I
know?
would honestly categorize myself as a rec right now.
Mhm.
I know what it feels like to live and breathe poker and be a top player, and I'm not doing that right now. I might still be able to play at a high level, but I'm not a pro in that
Mhm.
sense. The day in, day out grinders. Phil's not either right now. You know, he's running 2 businesses.
Yeah.
You gotta respect it.
I'm like always in purgatory with that, where I'll go hard for a little while and then step back and do a bunch of other stuff that makes me feel more sane and happy. But I kind of there's something about just like grinding really hard, studying really hard, that I want to do it at least for a while before giving up on that part of poker.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of that drive. Got to burn it out. 5,000 hours later. Wow, nut straight over there for Phil, shipping a 38,000 euro pot. I mean, we've seen so many big pots today. 38K pots starting to become pretty normal. So we've seen a little bit bigger of a sizing on this flop stem, the Ace King 5 two-tone. We've seen Ace King 9 two-tone, Ace King 5 two-tone, both players using the 60% pot or so. This turn is going to strongly favor Freak, the offsuit king, giving him way more boats, decreasing Phil's ability to realize his equity with his draws when they are still alive. Should see a double barrel unless he's setting the trap. You don't see too many bluffs in the bet check bet line here, as most of them are inclined to bet, although that does overbalance. It makes the turn bet a little bit unwieldy. There it is, small and wide. Freak staying very much in line here. Phil having to decide not just what hands does he call here, but then how does he navigate versus a pot-sized bet on the river. A lot of leverage being threatened by Freak's double barrel here. Meanwhile, block bet by Freak over on 5G after tons of hands brick out, and Phil has a quite existent 10x density, chooses not to represent it, and releases. Yeah, True Teller, Ben 86, very sweet. That's correct, reverse bankroll. Sauce is a no-limit player. Looks like this might be a wrap, boys and girls. We are 6 hours and 10 minutes into a tumultuous session. How much is he up? Any idea?
We need the update. Brought it up, Nick. I think he said they stopped getting updates for a little
Probably like
while there.
120, something like that. 125,000 euros, 135 in the neighborhood.
Oh, 165.
160.
Phil thinks we're getting confirmation, but wow, what a day.
165,000 buckaroos.
Wow.
Looks like this is it, guys. No interview. Do you want to close us out, Jamie? It's been a pleasure, guys. Thanks so
Sure,
much.
I'll give the Phil interview right now where you go, Phil, how'd you play? And he goes, I'll give myself a B-.
Oh, well, you can always do better, son. Don't worry, you'll get them next time.
Yeah, that was really fun today. Thank you, everyone in chat, for hanging out and telling us jokes and stuff. And that was fun. Thank you. It was nice to meet you, Richard.
Oh, yeah, pleasure. Absolutely.
All right.
Well,
Take
until
care,
next
everybody.
time. Bye-bye.
Bye.